watchmaking blends centuries of innovation with precision engineering. From early mechanical movements powered by gears and springs to the quartz revolution of the 1970s, advancements in watch technology have continually redefined accuracy and craftsmanship. Today, watches feature diverse mechanisms: manual wind for a classic touch, automatic for convenience, and quartz for precise, low-maintenance timekeeping. Hybrid movements, such as Seiko's spring drive, combine mechanical and quartz elements for unique performance. Watch complications, like chronographs, perpetual calendars, and tourbillons, demonstrate skill and creativity, transforming watches into multifunctional tools and aesthetic marvels. Brands like Rolex, Patek Philippe, and Audemars Piguet showcase mastery in each piece, with examples like the Rolex Submariner and Patek Philippe Grand Complications, offering exemplary durability and intricate design. Recognizing these elements enriches appreciation for timepieces as both technological achievements and artistic legacies.
Dan, as the watchmaker, take us inside the watch for a moment. Like, are there micro mechanical innovations that still blow your mind?
There's a lot of innovation going on in just the last 20 years or so with silicone hairsprings. Anyone that's shopping for a more modern watch knows that they keep way better time. You have the coaxial escapement that's in Omegas, developed by a British gentleman named George Daniels, which he took around to most of the big companies first, and they were like, "You're denied, you're British. You can't have an invention on a Swiss watch. It is the best, and we can't top it, but we're not putting that in our watch." I think he went to Patek first, was the story. And then he stuffed it into his personal Rolex just to show them, like, it can be done, see? So there's innovation, there's always innovations. But in the past, we had Breguet, who has his name on just about everything. So I deal mainly with vintage. And I love vintage because when wristwatches began, it was more like how do we miniaturize a pocket watch and strap it to our wrist? So the watches were built in a time where we were also in a mindset of how do we make things that will last for centuries and centuries, because even a little kid at 8 years old, he didn't leave the house without a watch on. He needed to know what time it was to come back, even if he was just playing at the end of his driveway and he had to come back in for lunch or whatever it was. So the things had to take a beating, and everything inside the watch from a mechanical standpoint is made so, which means I can manufacture wheels and pinions to older watches, Patek Philippe, and so forth here in my workshop with all the stuff that I have here. The more modern watches have been designed more inside a computer, into CAD and CAM, and then CNC and EDM, wire erosion machines and spark erosion machines. So everything has been made more precise, but the wheels and pinions and parts are thinner and thinner and thinner to make a thinner watch. And a lot of these parts are not going to be able to be remanufactured 60, 80 years from now. Meaning, well, if you buy a more modern watch, if the company decides they would not like to sell you those parts 60 years from now, then it's landfill. And that's the disturbing part that I think people should be aware of when they're shopping for watches. And another reason why vintage watches have just skyrocketed in price and just booming, because we have watches like you just showed, like Audemars Piguet, right? So you have the old time, the micro rotor that winds. This one's solid gold. When you wear your watch, you don't have to wind it anymore. You have, Rolexes with crazy dials, but they're sealed in the back and they're waterproof and fashionable. Then you have Man on the Moon, Omega type stuff. Sorry, it's backwards. Also sealed back. But this one I did a restoration on. This one is early 70s. So you have your pick of what you want to go for. So if you don't go for modern, how do you find it? And you don't want vintage, you're kind of stuck, right? I don't want the hassles of vintage, because then you have to deal with someone like me to pay for restorations. But now the modern watches, they don't really appeal to me. So what do you do? So there is something that people should be aware of, like something which is very rare, like a Man on the Moon, where Omega actually reproduces the Lemania chronograph movement that's in here that was developed in the late 30s. It's the same movement that's in Patek and other brands as well back then. So this is basically, you can go buy a new version of this watch. So you're buying a brand new vintage watch. And it has, now they put the coaxial escapement in it and a silicone hairspring. We just hopped it up a little bit. It's one of the few companies that is producing a brand new vintage watch. So if you buy an Omega, a certain model, because they have many models that has the Lemania in it, or they now produced the 321, which is the watch that went to the moon, in exact specification. These, it's like you're going back in time and buying something from the late 30s, early 40s, and that will last centuries and centuries. And the bonus here is what how I try to guide all my collectors, is that I can make any part to this watch here in my facility. Any and every part. If they decide they don't want to sell parts anymore to anybody, this watch will keep going and keep ticking by any traditionally trained watchmaker. And that's the worrisome part, and that I guide people with nowadays, to be careful what you purchase, to make sure that that story of you can pass this on for generations and generation is not a lot of bullshit, pardon my language, in the more modern pieces. There is a little, there's some shady stuff going on, and some know-how and knowledge that everyone should know, such as silicone hairsprings. They're wonderful. They keep better time. In position, when I time watches in different positions, they're extremely accurate. But in 80 years, if someone who shouldn't be inside your watch, that calls himself a watchmaker, and he's just learned his craft on YouTube, which you can't learn this on YouTube, and he's poking around and pokes that hairspring, and now it's all out of whack and mangled, which is a lot of fun nowadays, you're not going to be able to get that hairspring material ever and make a new hairspring and get the watch going again, like we do for older pocket watches, museum pieces, and so forth. That watch is going to just be landfill again. So be careful what you choose. Consult your watchmaker, especially if you're spending a lot of money investing in vintage watches.
Good cautionary tale. And thank you for the watch porn. Paul, how do you evaluate craftsmanship when authenticating rare watches?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. It really takes experience to understand what is truly quality and what's not so great. There are levels, of course, and there are levels of quality at different price points. And so what I'm looking for, especially if I'm considering newer watches for my own personal collection or advising clients on what next to purchase, I'm looking for excellence at the price. So, there's mass-produced watches, mass-produced with excellence, and there are handmade watches with excellence. And so I look for brands that are pushing the state-of-the-art of watchmaking with their own original designs, truly focused on making a precise timekeeper. So that's as far as quality goes. The second part of your question was authentication. And so that is, examining details. So when you're examining a watch, they speak to you. And when everything is correct, the watch sings to you. So you're looking first at the serial number, of course, to see when the watch was manufactured. And you expect the watch to have certain features. So say it's a watch from the 1970s and it has luminous material. The luminous material should be tritium, and under UV light, it should react a certain way. The designation at 6 o'clock, say Swiss made or T-Swiss T or Swiss T less than 25. All of those things are details that changed over time, and you want to make sure that it's correct for that era. The case serial number should be, matching the dial era, and pushers and crown. Those are replaceable, but you hope to find original pushers and crowns. We're always looking for well-preserved watches. It's similar to collecting cars. A car as close to brand new condition is the ideal. So the less miles it has, the better quality car it is. And it's similar with watches. The less it's been worn, the closer it is to new, the more desirable it is and the less problems you'll have with it.
Stephen, provide us with some context. There are like the big premier brands, but there's also a rise of affordable indies. What do we need to know? Oh, I think you're muted.
Sorry
There
about that. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, there's the rise of indies at all price points. I think we've seen an explosion of more affordable independent brands over the last number of years. And by independent, we just mean not owned by a huge global conglomerate, you know, not owned by LVMH or Richemont, who own, you know, kind of the vast majority of the household names. But we've seen a huge surge in high-end independent watchmaking as well over the last, let's say, maybe 2 decades. And I think it just speaks to the diverse needs and wants of customers. You know, you still have customers who, you know, for them, a Rolex is all they'll ever want or need. You have customers who all they want is Patek Philippe. You have customers who buy a variety of watches, but they want to buy, you know, brands that will get recognized on the street or maybe have longer histories. But then you have customers who don't. You have customers who want something different. You have customers who want something maybe more expressive. You have customers who want to meet the person whose name is on the dial. And I think it's really wonderful that over the last, you know, decade or two, we've seen the market diversify. We've seen the industry diversify. And now if you're interested in watches, kind of no matter where your interests lie, what your budget is, there's something really cool out there for you. And I'll just speak personally, you know, when I first got interested in this, you know, maybe 15 years ago, a little less than 15 years ago, that wasn't the case. And I'm often jealous now of what I see out there. And I say, you know, if only this had been around when I was looking for something like this, or when I was looking to get into this hobby. Yeah, I think we're in kind of a better, more exciting place than ever.
Tariq, can you discuss a vintage piece in your collection that really exemplifies exceptional horological craftsmanship? What's a favorite?
So I love, maybe you know, I love day dates. Reason why I love day dates is because there's such a the day date for me is a completely different watch that is not comparable to the other, let's say, Rolex models, Daytona, GMT, Submariner. I would say very, very carefully. Paul will maybe prove me wrong, but we've seen most of the things that exist in terms of sports models already. But the day date is one of those models where I say that we don't know what's out there. Watches that were ordered by heads of states, by Middle Eastern personalities, and all these. What's sleeping in their safes. There's watches we see here occasionally that we've never seen, that we don't have a reference to. So this is what fascinates me in terms of the day dates. And looking at my favorite piece, I have a Rolex 1803, and Paul is sitting there. I bought it from Philips, actually. It's yellow gold with a blue dial with Arabic Hindi numerals. That is kind of one of a kind. I'm not sure. Well, it's quite a few years back that I bought it. And me loving day dates, living in the Middle East, being able to read these numbers and the Arabic language as well, that just is complete, pure romance for me. I have a very strong bond with the watch, and I reconnect every single time I look at the watch. I reconnect with it, and I love it more and more. It's gonna go in the box where the heirlooms at some point will go. The passion is clearly for the day date, and mostly I would say because most of the day date dials, cases are very similar or same, 36 millimeter. I think it's about the dial. So and with these dials, I have some other favorites, but this one really stands out.
Love hearing about your passion and where that landed. Let's move on to the next segment.